At last, this is one of the tutorials that people have been requesting for the longest time. How to make a successful, safe and smooth approach in your helicopter in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, or any sim for that matter. Well, here it is. I'll take you through several scenarios and show you techniques to keep you right on track. Let's get you hitting that target every time. And there are so many more helicopter tutorials on my channel. I hope you'll check those out too. But for now, let's fly. And it's in Switzerland that we're going to be doing this exercise. That's Lake Constance in the background. We are on approach to St. Gallen Altenrhein Airport. And the helicopter approach path into runway 28 is to take a left here and follow this Altenrhein in on the published path. So the field elevation is 1,300 feet. As you can see, we're at 2,300 at this time. We're going to be wanting to get down to about 500 feet above ground level, maybe 600, for our final approach into runway 28. So something to think about when we are planning approaches is to beware of the height velocity curve, otherwise known as the dead man's curve. So I will get my whiteboard up and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So here is a typical height velocity curve. This changes from helicopter model to model, so you'll just need to look up your own. Now on the vertical axis here we've got height above ground level, 200 feet and so on, and on this horizontal axis we've got our indicated airspeed, 20 knots, 40 knots and so on. Now this curve often looks something like this on a single engine helicopter. And what it means is you don't want to approach or take off in this kind of zone here. So we don't want to be high and slow is what this is saying. In a helicopter we don't land vertically from 600 feet going down, because if we were to suffer an engine failure in this area, it might not be safe for us to auto-rotate back down to safety down here at ground level. We wouldn't have enough forward airspeed. And there's another one over here as well, which just means you don't want to be going too fast when you're right above ground level, because that also would be risky to be able to recover from. So moral of the story, a nice safe approach might be something up here, 400 feet and above ground level and 70 knots. We're reducing speed, and only when we get down under a couple hundred feet are we allowing the last of our speed to wash off as we enter a hover and land safely at 0 knots and 0 feet above ground level, because that's what a landing is. So there is the runway just over there, as I lean over that way a bit for you. Now, it's kind of a poor habit for us to maybe approach these approaches too fast. So if we come in here screaming in at 120 knots in the H125, it's going to be pretty hard to slow us down in time to make a nice reasonable approach. I'm currently at 60 knots. That's a reasonable profile for the final approach in an H125. You could probably go up to 80, and I'm maybe doing this a little bit too slow. So the way it works on your controls at this point is that when we lock in the point we're going to land, we're going to be using the cyclic fore and aft to control our velocity. And we're going to be using the collective then to control our vertical progress off the ground. So what I want to do is land right on the numbers 28. And the way I'm going to do that is actually to aim slightly further down the runway. And you see where the pappies are? There's the main landing zone marked there on the runway. So we're at about 500 feet above ground level now, and we're at 50 knots, descending a bit too rapidly, pulling a bit more collective, controlling the forward progress. Now we're getting slow with the cyclic, pushing the cyclic forwards to maintain our forward momentum. We don't want to come out the bottom of that dead man's curve. So what you can do here as well with your approach is you can just orient the helicopter so you can see out of this lower right window. That makes it a little bit easier when we're sitting on the right. And so what I'm doing here is using fore and aft cyclic to control my progress down onto the numbers. I was aiming for that main touchdown zone, and the goal here is to bring ourselves to a hover of a couple of meters, 6 or so feet, or more, 6 to 8 feet above the 2-8 numbers, which I think we're doing an okay job of here. Keeping our eyes down the runway, keeping a soft gaze down the runway to keep that alignment on the runway center line. And I'm raising collective now to cushion our touchdown from this hover, which means I need to also coordinate myself with a bit of right pedal in there as well. So I think that looked pretty good. So now that we are safely down onto the ground, what's another exercise we can try? This might be even faster to set up, although I would recommend you get into the habit of being able to perform those approaches safely. But here is another exercise you can do from a location like this. I am just going to fly to the other end of the runway. Sounds simple, but it's an opportunity to practice our approach skills. Now, something that helps me is the Tobii eye tracker. I'm not being sponsored to say this. I'm just saying that as I look around here, just with my head gently moving to side and my eyes like that, looking down and up, is that I don't need to move my view too much. I'll just turn that off for a moment. If you don't have a head tracker, or if you're not in VR, I mean, VR is even easier still because you've got those 3 dimensions to help with your depth perception. In 2D, it is notoriously difficult to judge your height off the ground. So if you don't have either VR or an eye tracker, head tracker, maybe you could see about getting something like this onto one of your controls where I can sort of tilt the camera down, and that's going to make my approaches a bit easier because I'm partially looking down and can see my progress above the ground. So for this exercise, head tracking is back on, and I will need a bit of right cyclic, a bit of aft cyclic, a bit of right pedal, and I look down the runway here. We'll see what this pickup is going to be like. Not too bad, sprung off the ground a little bit, but too fast. Let's get that stable over here, and point down the runway. Raise collective, cyclic down, gain speed. And we're doing the reverse of that dead man's curve now. We'll get up to about 50 knots and we'll start to let ourselves rise up here. So here at Altenheim, just above the console right now, you can see the middle marker on the runway there. That's the sort of the center of the long axis on the runway. Oh, and there's a jet airliner down there now. It's a bit wrong. What I'm going to do is attempt to land on the numbers again. And to do that, I'm going to aim at the other end of the piano key. So I'm going to aim slightly beyond the numbers. So what do I need to do? I am going to use another technique here, which is about keeping the objects in the same orientation with the console. Now I got a bit slow there, so keeping the forward speed going. So are the piano keys in the same place relative to the console right now? Approximately yes. I'll just fake this a bit. Now they're going down in my view, so I need to lower the collective. Now they're going up in my view, so I need to raise the collective. So I just faked that for you so you could see. So you use your collective to keep your target point in the same position on your windshield. Got a little bit slow there just as I was showing you all of that, but we remain in a good position to get over these numbers. Glide it in slowly here. As I add collective, I need to remember to be ready on the right pedal in the H125 to counteract the torque effect. So, looking down to the end of the runway, allowing that last little bit of height to come off, and we touch down. Not entirely quite as perfect as the last one, but hey, I'll take that. And now I have reversed course on the same runway, so we will be doing this with a very slight tailwind now, just to see if what the difference is like. I'm pointing down the runway, gathering speed. We're through 50 knots. I climb up. This is not a long runway, so maybe 300 feet above ground level will be sufficient, which is what we're getting to now. So now I start to set up for the approach back onto the numbers again, aiming for the end of the piano keys, which are getting a bit slow here, so I'll try to do it a bit faster than the last approach. Piano keys are going down the windshield, I lower the collective. Still going down the windshield, I lower the collective still more. And more, which means I'm going to need to be ready to put in a lot of extra pedal here when we get down to the 2.8. Quite enough, Matthew, but we still have just about achieved. Just came up a few meters short there, so I'll just fix that now, even with that slight tailwind. And looking down the end, lowering the collective, ground effect, contact with the ground. I was a little bit higher than what I thought I was. Again, it's always easier in virtual reality if you've got it. And there's our result there. Not quite straightened fully, but not too bad. Well, I've switched to VR in the Swiss Alps now, but if you are sticking down at Altenrhein or a place like that, you could do some right-hand circuits at 500 feet as well to help with your practice. Now, this poses a slightly different challenge. There is a helipad dead ahead, but there's nowhere really to aim beyond it. So we're going to use a slightly different technique here to get down onto that pad safely. This is a Pinnacle technique, and what I'm going to do is focus on the valley behind and use that as a guide to see how my approach angle's coming along. So that was just getting a touch low there. I mean, my escape angle's still fine. I could just bug out to the left there, no problem. And so I'm just using the space above the pad, in my view, to judge. It's sort of snow and rocks on the flank of the Matterhorn there, the lower flanks, to judge how steady my angle of approach is. Just getting a tiny bit slow as usual, as is my habit seems to be in this video. But it gives me time to talk to you, which is nice. And so as I took my eyes off the sort of the Pinnacle angle there, I then got a bit loose there on the angle. But here we are over the pad, looking out at the distance now and letting us settle slowly onto one pad. A slight shift there on one skid, which is a bit of a bug in MSFS 2024 at the moment. And here is a different style of approach for you. This is in the Yarra Valley wine region, just to the east of Melbourne. And it's a winery's helipad that I designed in an earlier video tutorial, so you can check that out if you want to. This one's not publicly available. So I have established myself here on the agreed procedure to approach this winery, and that is from the east, kind of along the highway that you can see down on the lower right. And I've got a gentle westerly breeze to fly into here. 70 knots, 1,300 feet. Okay, what we need to do here is get over a couple of obstacles before we get down onto the final approach and takeoff area, a helipad. And what that's going to entail is clearing a couple of tall trees. So right off the nose now, you can see a long building with a tall tree just to the far right of it. We've got to get over that. You can just see the helipad now coming from behind another tall tree, which is just on the side of the highway there. And so we do two angles here. We do a shallower approach at this point, but one that gets us over these tall trees. So I think we're doing okay there with the tallest tree, just out of view behind the console now. So we'll just get sort of down this channel here in between the two tall trees. And just keep our eye now on that one. And again, this is what we normally have to do here. We just control our forward progress with the cyclic fore and aft. So we just keep the forward momentum by nosing down slightly with the cyclic. And with the pedals, we just, as we add collective here, just be ready on that right pedal to counteract the torque effect that is introduced when we raise the collective, and that keeps it all looking nice and smooth. And at this point, looking off into the distance as we just lower that collective, keeping everything stable here, and touch the ground. There it is. Not too bad. And it's interesting looking back at those tall trees from this angle, isn't it? That's what we had to negotiate on this particular approach. So, several different methods there to try in 3 different locations I showed you in that video. There are so many more video tutorials on my channel. I hope you'll check those out. And be kind to yourself when you practice. Give yourself lots of time. Don't rush yourself. Be kind. And I look forward to seeing you in another video real soon. See ya.